All right, well, we are going to go ahead and get started. So first, I wanted to say hello and thank you for joining us this afternoon. I'm Nicole Beck. I'm the president of National Training Network, and I'm just so delighted to have you with us. Those of you that have worked with NTN in the past, and those of you that may not have, this is a little bit different than the type of webinar and session that we have done and that we typically do. Usually as a math professional development company, we're digging into the math and the content and unpacking standards and working on pedagogy and looking how to implement that in classroom. But we just felt compelled. I mean, there is just this national crisis with teacher shortages and vacancies. And we realize as much as we can care and hope and be focused on, math performance, that we also realize that we need to have people teaching and we want good, passionate teachers out there. So we thought that we wanted to take just 30 minutes to do a webinar and really just give us an opportunity to talk through and come up with some ideas and strategies surrounding how we can really look at retaining math teachers as we move forward, and then also how we can support their instruction. Sarah, introduce herself.
My name's Sarah Wood. I'm the Technology Development Manager for National Training Network. And just to kind of piggyback off of what Nicole was just saying, 30 minutes is a very short period of time and a bit of a discrepancy from really diving into the math. But as an active participant in sessions, usually I typically try to have a goal of walking away with at least just one thing that is tangible that I can turn and apply in my respective role. So that's our goal and our hope for you guys today within this next 30 minutes.
Great, thank you. And again, this kind of goes against our typical nature because we love to have participants engaging and working through this, but for the 30 minutes, it's webinar style. But we do promise to give an opportunity to have kind of that dialogue on the back end of this through follow-up and Q&A. So we're gonna just jump right in. So just to start out, I want us to think back. In general, we could be thinking, why do people go into education? But you may also think about, like, why did you go into education in the first place? So I just want you to take a moment, just jot down, see if you can come up with that number one answer. We've got the top 10 answers on the board. But why, in general, do people go into education? Just take about 30 seconds to think through. So I love Steve Harvey on Family Feud, and I love when he always gives the contestants a hard time because he's always like, that is going to be the best answer on YouTube. Well, because that's not going to be the number one answer. I think we can probably agree that the number one answer is probably not going to be money, and it's probably not going to be because education is easy. So that's not the theme you're going to see here. So when you think about why people go into education, it ultimately is to make a difference. Like, we go into this, these are humans that go into a profession that has long hours that you take with you everywhere. And our goal is to make a difference, to inspire, to be a lifelong learner, to just live with deep purpose, to ignite that spark for learning and a love for a subject. All of these things are what I think we can sometimes get away from because we get caught in how challenging the profession is and all of the logistics behind it, the compliance and the day-to-day and the paperwork. They're things that by design are important, but it takes us away from those initial reasons to why we went into education. So the first thing that we just want to put in the back of our mind as we talk through these next 28 minutes is that we want to tap into why people went into education and try to find those opportunities to celebrate those things as often as possible. Let's remind them. We have to remind our teachers. We need to be reminded of it. You all as leaders in buildings, you just made it through what in my lifetime is the most difficult thing I've seen happen in education. What you have accomplished and what you persevered and came out stronger on the other side from is something that I don't think other professions could have done. And when we talk about things and ideas and strategies for how to retain these teachers moving forward, I want to be crystal clear. We are not feeling like the reason why people left is because of anything that has necessarily been done in a building right now. We had a pandemic. We're living in a post-pandemic world, and people started to rethink what their priorities were, or what their life wanted to look like as they move forward. But now that we have those that came through, what we're talking about today is how do we keep them? How do we make sure that they stay in and we keep attracting more to the profession? So our research says things you're probably not unfamiliar with, right? In the US, 14% approximately of new teachers resign by the end of the first year. I think if we look at this year, it may even be, or the year that just passed, it may even be more. 33% leave within the first 3 years, 50% leave by year 5. And those are some alarming statistics. The Learning Policy Institute did a study, and they found that first-year turnover is cut by more than a half if we provide first-year teachers lots and lots of support, mentoring, collaboration, resources, give them a strong network of collaboration. And unfortunately, because of budgets and things that are outside of, I know, your control, only about 3% of beginning teachers receive that comprehensive support. So we're trying to find ways to navigate that. Not easy. Why are teachers leaving? We talked about why we got into the profession. Well, the top reason reported was a feeling of unappreciation. And that is not something that I'm saying that our leaders aren't appreciating them. I'm saying the world is not appreciating what educators did as a whole, right? I don't think everyone understands what that is, but there's this feeling of being unappreciated. And according to the US Department of Labor, 64% of Americans leave their job because they don't feel appreciated. It's not because of money. So, yeah, money helps, but that's not why people are leaving. In fact, the opposite. They're saying, even if I was paid more, if I'm not feeling appreciated, I still don't think I would stay in the profession. So that was something that I think was kind of one of those like, okay, maybe we need to tap into that appreciation really intentionally. Lack of support. More than 1 in 4 teachers who leave say they do so because they didn't have support or opportunities to collaborate. Burnout. You feel it, we feel, everyone feels it, right? It's a thing, it's real. In 2021, 75% of teachers reported frequent job-related stress. I don't know who the other 25% are. I think it's 100. I don't know how teachers don't feel stressed, but I mean, that's a thing, right? Some of us manage it differently. We've got to find ways to manage it. 27% reported symptoms of depression. And I think that burnout directly leads to this other piece, that work-life imbalance. I mean, those two things go hand in hand, right? When you think about what a teacher does in a day, grading papers, analyzing data, planning lessons, understanding all these things, they just feel like there's not enough time in the day. So we have to find kind of ways to balance that and create a healthy life balance for them. So that leads us to really what we're talking about, right? So what actions can we take to really help combat this mass exodus that's been happening with teachers? So number one, it may sound simple, and it's not just show appreciation. We're going to dig into what we really mean by that. But I think showing appreciation in a way teachers know is genuine and to their style can make a significant difference. And I can give just a personal example from our own work environment and something that we implemented that has really helped that, have all of our employees return. Second, just looking at ways and the kinds of support that would actually contribute to teacher growth and success, and that support going hand in hand with the types of resources and being really strategic and intentional about those resources to ensure that those are fully aligned and time savings. Because if we do those things, that's going to help avoid burnout, and it's going to really help contribute to a healthy work-life balance. And if we can start to put these things in action on a regular basis, I think we're going to see a big change in how and the number of teachers that are leaving. So first and foremost, showing appreciation. So as a math professional development company, our coaches work all over the country. They're working in classrooms with math teachers every day. One of the things I ask the coaches to do is to ask their teachers, how do you feel valued? What makes you feel valued? How do you feel appreciated? So you'll notice some of these clouds as we go through that just give some of the things we heard numerous times from teachers. One thing that came up time and time again is just verbal praise on a specific aspect of my practice. Another thing we heard from teachers is that they feel valued and appreciated when there's a shout out on something specific that they did, specifically to the whole staff. So just some things that we're hearing from our partners active this year. These are some things they're saying. So some of you may be familiar with this. There is a book, The 5 Languages of Appreciation in the Workplace. And this is a book that our company actually did a book study on about 4 years ago. And at that time, all the employees read it. It's a really quick, easy read. And we started to implement some of the things we learned from here. So this is a play on the 5 love languages, which I think was like a big Oprah bestseller. But these 5 languages of appreciation in the workplace basically cues up like this. So I'm going to give you a moment to read through these things, and you can just think about it. Nothing that needs to be shared. But right here, there's 4 different pairs of statements. And for each of those 4 pairs, I want you to think about which of those is more meaningful to you. Like, which do you care most about? So for instance, for number 1, I appreciate it when my colleagues, manager, and teammates choose to spend time with me, or I appreciate it when I'm given tickets to an activity like a movie or something that I enjoy. So you got to pick one or the other. Maybe both are things you really like, but I want you to let one of them weigh stronger than the other. So just think about the 4 scenarios and just which one you pick in each. I'm going to give you a moment to read through them. So this is just like a snapshot, a little snippet of what the full kind of evaluation is that helps you determine which language of appreciation you would be. There's actually 25 of these pair statements, and Sarah's going to drop the link in the chat if you're able to access it, which would give you access to all 25 of the pairs. But also, at the conclusion of the webinar, there's going to be a recording of this that goes out that you're going to get, and you're going to have the PDF copy of all 25 of them too, in case this is something you would want to try with your teachers and with your staff to help them really determine which of the 5 languages of appreciation really speaks to them most. So what winds up happening, as I'm sure you can figure out, is basically at the end of the 25, you are tallying up how many A's, B's, C's, and D's you get. And then your results is going to help determine whether your language of appreciation is words of affirmation, quality time, tangible gifts, or acts of services. Now, yes, we're a math company. I realize that's 4, and I know there's 5 languages of appreciation, but the 5th language is physical touch, which I know is controversial in a work environment. We tend to just pair that up with quality time. And the way that the quiz even is designed is to have you fall in one of these 4. What we did think is that if somebody's, language of appreciation is physical touch, that does mean that this past, the past years where they did a lot remote, maybe was very difficult for them. Like, they appreciate physically being with other people. So it does give us a little bit of insight into their personality and what they might be struggling with, but that there are people that instead of doing an online professional development, they're going to really prefer to be in person and getting their professional development in person. So just a side note, but basically I'm sure you can see how this would work. So for time's sake, we're really just going to focus on words of affirmation. It's something that we can do, and that would really be a practice we can embed in, I'm sure, the work that we're doing in our schools. But just from National Training Network standpoint, we actually had all of our employees do this, and we identified which of those 4 languages they appreciated most. And this is how we have, in the last 4 years, shown appreciation. So if someone's quality time, we make sure we have more one-on-one ride-alongs with them. We make sure that their conversations and evaluations and things are all done face-to-face. We do celebration. We know who needs to make sure that they have that. So we really try to feed into that. We're very intentional about it. And we're really proud that while I know our coaches are working around the clock, they're in different schools. They have to plan different specific professional developments at night when they get home. They also have paperwork. They have to, really find ways to analyze data and move schools. They have to learn different programs. Some of them are in multiple states and traveling. Like, it's not an easy job, but I'm proud that they all return. Like, we got all 100% of them wanting to come back. And, you know, they have said that it has made a difference for them, you know, just being able to see that type of appreciation from our previous experience. So I want to dig into words of affirmation for just a moment. Obviously, the communication style, we said compliments, affirmation, kind words. Actions might be sending notes and cards, emails, things like that. What to avoid is criticism. Now, it doesn't mean we can't criticize. There's constructive criticism that may need to be given to help better someone's practice. We just have to understand that that's going to be something that's hard for that employee to hear. So we want to be really careful in how we deliver that and where, and so that it's in a safe space and that there's, you know, opportunity for growth and for us to come back and see and then be able to complement the advancement that they make. So those, it's all very intentional to make sure that we see and hear what they need. So in terms of words of affirmation, it's not like a attaboy. It's more of a really thinking about these three different areas of things that we could be praising them for. So in one case, we're praising for accomplishments. In another, it's affirmation for character. And then in the other, it's praising for personality. A combination, any of these things are very meaningful and valuable when they're genuine. So for a math teacher, when we think about praising for accomplishments, we think about what a great student-centered math classroom looks like. So for us, you know, we have really allowed those process standards to guide that work, to name it something. But in essence, whether it's the standards for math practice or whatever practices we're talking about, everyone would want students making sense of problems and persevering and solving them, right? Something that we'd all want to see. That makes for a good math lesson. We can't just see that. There's a lot of things students have to be doing in order to really show proof that students are making sense of problems and persevering and solving them. The same as attending to precision, right? We want students attending to precision using right math language. We want them using correct symbols, really being able to apply calculations correctly. But these are all things that are great that the student are doing. And we know that when student engagement is up, student success is up. These are the things we want to see. But if I'm a teacher, I plan that lesson and I deliver that lesson. So if my language of appreciation is words of affirmation, it's important to think about what did we see students doing really well? And what was the teacher action that allowed that to happen, right? And that's the type of very intentional feedback we can be providing to our teachers. So for instance, you know, I really liked how you planned this really structured lesson that was rich in content because that allowed for students to do X, Y, and Z. You know, we want to make sure that we're praising the teacher's accomplishment also, if that's their work language. I really like how you utilize high order questions, high order thinking and questioning strategies that were very well thought out. They were really standards aligned, you know, all of those things. So we're really, even when we're working with teachers as coaches and trying to get the most out of them, we want to be able to also meet them where they're at so that they're, you know, feeling safe and more comfortable in terms of trying and taking risks to do new things. Affirmation for character. When you think about characteristics of a great math teacher, they're empathetic, encouraging, familiar with the material, they're resourceful, they're open-minded with growth mindset, culturally aware, collaborative, and just many, many more. The list goes on, right? Well, character looks beyond performance and focuses on the inner nature of a person. Who doesn't need to hear this sometimes? Sometimes we need to be encouraged and we need to affirmed in what our character is. So, you know, in addition to praising for performance, affirming for character is also a really, really valuable thing that helps teachers feel valued, excuse me. Praising for personality. So this is the third piece of it, right? We want teachers that are determined, passionate, good listeners, dedicated. You get the drift, right? So we just want to find these opportunities. And we just want to note that if you're not able to sincerely express the affirmation at that time, silence is preferred. Let's wait until we can, because everyone can see through that. But it really, really makes a difference. I'm not trying to oversimplify the fact that just appreciating. There's more to it than that, but it really makes a difference. That second piece to it is about providing support. So really setting realistic expectations with support and time to reach them is what teachers are asking for. They're asking for additional support in the classroom that makes them a better teacher. So I'm just picking a math problem about Rihanna here. Rihanna's taking a time assessment. She spends 3/5 of the time on language arts and a half of the remaining time on math. She checks her time and realizes she had 30 minutes to complete the science section. What was the total length of time for the assessment? This is not an easy question. And there's multiple ways to get to an answer here. Our teachers probably have one way they're feeling really confident with, but are they prepared and are they supported in knowing what these other strategies look like? Because if I don't feel fully confident, and that happens day after day, I'm feeling really vulnerable. And I don't know that this is then the profession for me, right? If I'm not feeling like I'm the expert as the teacher, then that's going to be something that's going to really wear and tear at me day after day. But if I have this and I am taught and I understand, and I have someone showing me these different strategies to say, hey, forget about the equation. If we're talking about 3/5 of something, start with 5, right? 3/5, 3 out of 5. There's the language arts. Now, what do we have left? We have 2/5. Well, half of that remaining time, half of that 2/5, one out of those 2 was on math, and realizes that then there's 30 minutes. That last 1/5 is 30 minutes. So if 1/5 is 30 minutes, then how long was the whole test? It was 2 hours and 30 minutes. So having scaffolds and resources and support, things that can help show us how to take what the task is and take the math and take the standard. As a math teacher, I'm going to feel through that support more empowered and confident to get in there. And I want to keep doing this because my students are successful and this is a good day after day, right? So we want to feed into that. We want to reignite their love of math and show them that it is accessible and they can do it. Otherwise, this is what it looks like. Because we have to remember, right? The math is not always easy, and it's definitely not how teachers learned it. There's level of rigors and standards. We have conceptual, we have application, we've got fluency, programs and standards are changing a lot. There's this post-pandemic challenge with unfinished learning, although unfinished learning always exists. There's discrepancies in students' math performance. We understand that we need culturally responsive teaching. There's limited teacher planning time. Teachers have different needs. Like there's all of these things. So when we think about supporting them, we just want to make sure that we're supporting them in a way that's job embedded, like coaching. We want to make sure we're planning with them. We want to make sure we're giving them training, because then they're going to be empowered and feel supported, right? So it's just taking on shape and figuring out all of these things and just this one outside piece just to make sure it's personalized. Like, let's make sure that we're personalizing the support for each teacher the same way we're asking teachers to personalize support for their students.
So going into that, then let's just take a look at that last or that third option here, which is providing resources. So again, we're looking at this through the lens of how do we provide resources that make our teachers' jobs easier and provides them with less of a burden for everything that they have that they're responsible for day by day. So when you're looking for the resources that are in the hands of your educators within your respective school or district, you want to ask yourself a couple of questions. Is the resource fully aligned? Is it providing time savings, and is it accessible? So let's kind of dive into that a little bit further. So for fully aligned, let's just take a look and think about math. Typically, math is very concept-based, and when you're looking at resources, you're going to see evidence of whatever those concepts are. But when we're talking about fully aligned, we want to think about what is specific to the standards that are within our given state. So for example, if I'm in a 4th grade class in Arkansas, and I'm trying to teach A4 NBT A3, which is use place value understanding to round multi-digit whole numbers to any place. There's a ton of math resources out there that talk about rounding, right? But how are we giving teachers things that help them understand if they're really hitting and meeting the standard the way that it's required within our given state? Same if I was in Florida, MAAR 2-1, solve multi-step linear equations in one variable with rational number coefficients, include equations with variables on both sides. If I look at math resources, I'm going to find equations, I'm going to find expressions, but then we're tasking teachers with having to really drill down in each of those resources to make sure that they're really hitting every part of the standard. So when we're looking at the resources that are provided and put into their hands, how do those resources directly meet and align to the specific standards within the state that we're in? Another item as it relates to looking and vetting the resources that you have in your hands is, are they time saving? Are they helping teachers allocate their time appropriately? Because we know that there's so little of that within a day. So I'm using a picture here on this screen to help illustrate the point here. This is actually adapted from one of our tools, which is called Mathematics, which is a digital assessment tool. But it was designed so that teachers can create and administer standards aligned assessments within a matter of minutes, and that they are auto scored, and that that data is provided to them in a variety of different reporting formats. So the goal is, yes, teachers are still dedicating time to collecting data, but ultimately they're spending their time on the back end, taking a look at and disseminating the data, and then using that data to impact their instructional plans moving forward. So no, we're not putting our time on the front end where we're having to actually vet things, try to take time to create things, try to take time to make sure that it directly meets the standard. That's done for you. It's really about, let's take a look at the data on the back end so that we're really doing what's in the best interest of our students. And then, is it accessible? We live in a digital age now, right? Everybody has a smartphone that they use that is at the touch of their fingertips to get them what they need when they need it. So it should be the same thing with our resources as well. How can teachers get access to the resources that they need when they want it, anytime, from anywhere? So if I need an instructional video that's really going to help me unpack, like what Nicole was showing before, like a visual model of how to represent a concept that I'm going to be teaching, how can I grab that when I need it from wherever I am? Or how can I pull that student data wherever I am so that I can use it in the time that I have allotted for myself? So if we were to just summarize, what are our 3 actions that we're taking away from this session? Let's just kind of do a quick summary here.
So appreciation, right? We talked about implementing the 5 languages of appreciation in the workplace. I highly recommend it. Even if you don't do the full book study, just having them take that quiz and just getting a sense of where they fall, I think would be a game changer. Or even just asking, what makes you feel valued? I mean, I really think that can go a long way. It says something when we follow up and follow through on that also. And just thinking about praise in these 3 different areas, like we talked about: performance, character, and personality. In terms of support, a recommendation and what teachers are telling us, like this is, again, the result of the questions we're asking them, is they're just saying ongoing job embedded professional learning that's personalized. I mean, that's really, those were the big takeaways we had. It's something we always believed, but we're hearing it from our partners.
And then, how are our resources providing support to our teachers so that they're really maximizing the use of their day? So are those resources fully aligned? And we're just I use some of our resources as an example, but just turn that into whatever resources you have available. Are they fully aligned to the standards that we're tasked to teach? Is it providing time savings in the places where we can for teachers, so that they're using their time really to kind of look at specifically what their student needs are within their classroom? And is it accessible to our teachers?
So I just wanted to share our contact, because we're always available as a follow-up to be a thought partner to you in any way we can. I think the topic's important. We're like just scratching the surface of it. I want to say again that you're all in, and we all forget this, you're in the positions you are because you're masterful at doing all of the things that teachers did that then advance you into this next place. Like, you're the best multitaskers, you get it, you have this lens, there's all of these things. And I think sometimes it's important that we just have like a reset and we just think about the fact that, okay, if I was sitting in this teacher's classroom and I had all these things, how would I approach it? I think even just sharing what you would do in that scenario makes a difference. I mean, something just that, just at that one moment, I think would help teachers see like, okay, this can be done. I think they just need a little bit of a confidence boost right now. I think the last few years were challenging, but I think we're moving ahead in stronger and stronger ways. It's because of you. And I think that, you know, anything that our team can do to support that, we're obviously here to do. You know, you always can visit us at ntnmath.com. You can go to our team and you can meet with any of us. Our whole team is there, and you're always able to schedule a time to chat with us. Like I said, we're always looking to be a thought partner. And then finally, just want to, you know, encourage you to keep doing this, keep fighting the good fight. Our kids need it. And obviously, I hope someone hug yourself, pat yourself on the back, but you did it. You made it. You're here. Now we just want to figure out our ways to keep everyone else here as well. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be here with us. And as a follow-up, you will get the recorded session. You will get the document that we talked about before in an email. And we hope that you can join us for future sessions also. We're always interested in your feedback and questions. So stay in touch and be safe. And hopefully we will see you very soon. Take care.